Okay, this is gonna be a long one, so bear with me. This guy's done a lot of stuff in his young life already. You know him from doing interviews at Little Punk People on YouTube. He started doing them when he was a wee lad, interviewing also very famous rock stars. You know him for all his music career, some really great music stuff. Of
Thank
course,
you.
his incredible acting roles in two of the best films of all time, Terrifier 2 and Terrifier 3. And of course, we also did some podcasts together during the pandemic on the Sea of Tranquility channel. Anyway, Elliot Fullam, how are you, sir?
I'm doing really well, man. Thanks for all the kind words. I'm excited to talk some metal.
You've done a lot so far. So yes, metal. This is what we're talking
Huh?
about, of course.
Yeah.
So I think your story on how you got into metal is probably one of my prime examples of really good parenting.
Yes. Yeah, my parents they raised me on it. I mean, they were really good at it because they started me off with like all the classic rock bands, and then on those late night car rides would throw in, a little bit of King Diamond, a little bit of Merciful Fate even, right? Took me to shows and I mean, I was instantly attached. Became a huge music enthusiast, metalhead, all around vinyl collector from since I can remember.
All the right things you should be doing, which is very good. Now I know you're a big King Diamond and Merciful Fate fan, so I know this was difficult for you. Like, which do you do, King Diamond or
Yeah.
Merciful Fate? But there's no wrong answer there. And of course, Merciful Fate is, the precursor to King Diamond, as we all know, and obviously a hugely important band to the world of metal. So you picked The Oath from Merciful Fate.
Hmm.
Give me your reasons behind that.
Oh, I mean, for me, when I start hearing top 100, songs that define heavy metal, I start thinking, what does metal mean to me? And a big thing is honestly, not caring about what anybody says, being able to express yourself. And I felt like King Diamond and Merciful Fate, both of them were one of the very first metal bands I thought of. And I felt like The Oath is a really good track that kind of sums up all that, that conceptual style of songwriting, unconventional song structure, throwing some cool breakdowns here, starting a song. I mean, The Oath starts off, with that really cool synthesizer, with the thunder, the lightning. It sets the tone, right? And it takes you on like this wild adventure. Of course, one of my favorite vocal performances from the King. He's got a lot of really good ones.
Oh yeah.
Uh, I'm sure we're gonna get into that. But I felt like The Oath was just honestly a great like sum up of the world that the king makes, that he creates.
Yeah, and it's I hadn't listened to it for a minute, so when I went back and listened to it, I was like, man, I forgot that. I mean, again, this record came out in the early '80s, right? So it was before, during the new wave of British heavy metal, basically. So before Iron
Yes.
Maiden and before Metallica and before all these other things, or around Maiden time. Uh, and man, this song was, when you think back again, it was so heavy for that time because when it kicks in, it's like that riff is like so heavy. The whole song is
Yeah.
pretty fast too, which I kind of forgotten about. I go, man, this song really, when I listened back to it, was such a precursor to thrash and all of that scene that came afterwards. That, of course, all of those bands, worship Merciful Fate. I mean, certainly Metallica. I mean, the big four, all massive Merciful Fate fans.
Oh, of
And listening
course.
to
How can
this
you
song,
not?
yeah, right. Well, yeah, that's the right answer, of course. But yeah, that the riffs what really got me. I was like, man, I forgot how there's so many different riffs in it. Both Hank and Michael Denner, just phenomenal guitar players, and way, way, way ahead of their time. And that's what kind of struck me because those first two Merciful Fate records, there aren't any bad songs on them. They're all good. But again, this is the one that I kind of forgot about. I went back, oh man, I really see why you chose this and why it is really an important song to the metal.
Yeah, I mean, uh, like you were talking about, like that speed, like the speed of it. A lot of some metal, like some bands, like they're all about the speed, the fast, the quickness, the heaviness. King Diamond and Merciful Fate, he manages to do stuff, especially on the Oath. He manages to keep that speed, but doesn't lose like the melody of it,
Hmm.
And of course his range, like the falsetto. I mean the
Yeah.
like it. How can it's just it's fast, it's heavy, but it's almost like beautiful at the same time. Like, I mean, for me, it's a no-brainer.
It's almost like a metal opera sort of thing going on here.
Yes.
And you have to remember too, I always talk about it on the show, because we talk about a lot of stuff that came from the 70s and 80s because this is what the foundation of heavy metal is and became. And all of the artists that we all know and love were all massively influenced by these bands. And when these first two Merciful Fate records came out, they were so unique and different, not just because of King's vocals, which of course are still unique and different today, but just the music and how they were incorporating different parts of the music and how they were playing and how the riffs were going and the various leads, and it was just like blowing everybody's mind. I remember even when we all the way back to the EP, and I was like, holy cow, that's pretty insane. So what was the first of the King Diamond Merciful Fate stuff? What was the first thing that you actually heard?
The very first song was Family Ghost that I heard. And I remember how I felt to this day. And then, of course, watching the music video alongside it. And then, honestly, shortly after, I was still very young, but seeing King Diamond live, I was right up front. And I was so lucky. He played Family Ghost and he looked directly at me and went like this, like that. And it became like a core memory to me. And, I was a huge King Diamond supporter then, but then even after that moment, I became an enthusiast. Have you? So that
Yeah,
was kind of like,
he's always really good at that. I've always noticed that he always will find a few people in the audience to kind of lock in on them. And clearly,
yeah,
being younger, I'm sure he was like, okay, let me get into this kid's head.
it worked.
Yeah. And then you went backwards, obviously, to Merciful Fate, from King Diamond back to Merciful Fate. So once you started
Yes.
going backwards, what were your first impressions on Merciful Fate at that point?
What I noticed was immediately, it actually kind of reminded me of another one of my other favorites. The difference between the solo of Ozzy Osbourne and the band of Black Sabbath,
Yep.
where, Ozzy, he can kind of, he experiments a little bit more. He does things that he wouldn't do with Black Sabbath, maybe with synths, right? Like the Oath. And of course, there's a lot of similarities between it. But like with King Diamond and Merciful Fate to me is just more rocky, It's just it sounds like heavy metal, but still almost, rock in a way. It doesn't lose those that rock inspiration. So that was immediately the very first thing for me. But I mean, The Oath is kind of like one of those pinnacle tracks for me where it kind of still kind of sounds a little bit like a King Diamond song while not losing that Merciful Fate authenticity.
Yeah, I mean that's the big difference for me between the two is that King's solo stuff is he sings a little bit differently, obviously than in Mercy, and clearly different styles because you have different guitar
Hmm.
players, and Hank and Michael were more. I mean, they're all European, obviously, but they to me were more like kind of heavier, maybe bluesier, Sabbathy European stuff, and then Andy, who's the guitar player in King Diamond, is brilliant guitar player. He's kind of more classical-ish sort of thing. So
Yeah.
there's slight differences, but the Mercy stuff, I think, to me still was just so blew me away because it's like I never heard anything like that before, and some of the stuff they were playing back then was like their first ever demo. The first time I ever went to England, we got their original demo, and by the end of the trip, I was with my buddy John, and we'd run out of money, so we're staying in this bed and breakfast and all. There's no TV, no nothing, like communal bathrooms, the whole thing, and it's basically two beds in a room, and that's all you get. And all we had a tape recorder. That the only tape we had was a Merciful Fate demo, so we listened to it like 100 times over and over again. But it was just so heavy, and I just blown away by like how can somebody write this stuff so heavy. And then of course they continued that with the two records, and this song again in particular is probably one of their heavier songs.
Yeah, and it's right there in the middle of the album too. It's the beginning of side B when you spin it on the vinyl. Uh,
Yep.
and of course, Don't Break the Oath. The Oath. It's kind of like the title track in a way.
Yep.
To me, it's kind of like almost like a summary of all the tracks on Don't Break the Oath.
Yep. Now, see, I would have thought when I went back and listened to it, I've always thought over all these years. I'm a big sequencing guy. I do a lot of that with the Metal Blade records, and sequencing. It's not as important now as it was back in the day, obviously, especially vinyl.
Mhm.
And I always thought that this song should be the first song on side one, but the record's so good. And you mentioned it's the first song on side two, which is also really important to have a really good song as the first song on side two. The Number of the Beast from Iron Maiden is the first song on side two.
Yeah.
So that was really important. So it kind of does make sense because it does lead off the second half of the record. Uh, and that was pretty important because now when you listen to it, it's like it's a whole record. But when you break it apart, you're right. Side two, it's a whole different feel.
Yes, and I mean that kind of goes hand in hand with what I was saying, like the conceptual style, and I mean a lot of the metal bands, during that time they did, kind of craft the album like it was a sequence, like you're saying,
Yep.
like it's like a whole adventure. And I've always thought that King Diamond and Merciful Fate, it's album experiences. For me, I listen to the
Yep.
whole album every single time. Look, I love today's standards with like the singles. Oh, this is a great single track. But for me, it's like, okay, but what's the context of it in the album? Even if there's a track that you don't care about as much, right? For me, it's the adventure to get to your favorite song too. You know what I mean? It makes it
See,
all the more,
you're
exciting.
1,000% right, and I wish more people your age would think that. But again, I go back to very good parenting. Your parents are awesome, by the way. They're really really cool people. So
I
it's
have
not
to agree.
surprising. The apple doesn't fall too far from the tree, right?
Mm.
So speaking of them and speaking of you, I was always fascinated because I first came to hear about you was somebody started saying, hey, there's this like little kid who's interviewing all these big, James Hetfield, all these big rock stars. Like, what? And so I started seeing some of the videos. I go, this is amazing. So where did that whole thing start?
It's a little embarrassing, but when I was younger, I grew up watching a lot of the YouTubers, like a lot of the Minecraft video game YouTubers, and I wanted to be some sort of content creator and, make people feel the same way that I felt. And of course, one of my biggest passions was music. And at the time, my parents were doing a lot of art conventions. My mom would sell her art and her paintings. It was, like a family business, and we thought like, well, I want to do content, and make people feel the same way that I did. Might as well kind of combine the two worlds, do interviews. So at the time, we interviewed a lot of horror actors, a lot of metal bands, a lot of rock bands, and eventually turned into like this whole thing where, like you said, I'm like interviewing like James Hetfield from Metallica. It kind of just spiraled and went crazy and crazy and crazier. Um, I I was, and I'm still living like the ultimate music nerd dream.
Okay.
Even doing this interview, like it's, everything you're saying. It really does mean a lot coming from you.
Oh, well, thank you, thank you. Well, look, I think the reason it works is because you did a great job. It's like you could
Thank you.
tell, you could feel like, okay, this kid's a real fan. He knows what he's talking about, and you're interviewing people the right way, and it's not like it could have easily been a novelty, which it kind of was a bit. But then you dig a little bit deeper, it's like, oh, this kid actually likes the stuff, and he's asking
Oh
really
yeah.
good questions. And I think that the word kind of got around from everybody, and that's why I think you're able to do so much stuff, which is really fun. And that's led into this whole crazy career of all sorts of other things. So we also have to talk about Terrifier. So Terrifier to me
Oh
is one of the greatest stories of all time. It's
wow.
this guy Damian Leone, who's again huge metalhead. David Thornton, who plays the incredible character Art, also huge metalhead. Quick funny story about that. So Kerry King and his wife Aisha and Chris Jericho are the ones that got me into Terrifier. Kerry and Aisha at one night said, "Have you seen this movie Terrifier?" I go, "No, I've never heard of it." So you got to watch it. Aisha's like, one of the greatest kill scenes of all time. All right. So I watched the movie. I'm like, oh my God, this is insane. And yes, it is one of the greatest kill scenes of all time. You have to watch it, but please make sure you're over the age of 18. Anyway, so I watched the movie. I just thought it was really great. And then I met David at the very last Slayer show in New York. So I was in New York and I was talking to Carrie, and Carrie goes, "Hey, Art's here." I'm like, "Huh? Like Art who? Art the Clown?" I'm like, "No, where?" So David came up and we basically hung the whole night. What a phenomenal dude. Like such a great guy. So that's why I first met him. And then, of course, then comes Terrifier 2, which I was involved in, and a bit of the crowdfunding and some of the help. And I'm a ghost that was killed in the famous scene with all the people that get killed. I was supposed to be killed in there, but it was COVID and I couldn't get there. But Damien very nicely put me in as I got a screen credit. And if you look at my IMDb page. So, how did you become involved in the Terrifier franchise?
Honestly, it was a, a really good, it was one of those cases where it was like just the perfect timing. Uh Auditions were we were kind of like in a slow period. Like sometimes it's like you get auditions like every other day, and then sometimes it's like you don't get auditions for a month. And during that time, my dad, incredible parenting, by the way, my dad looked up on this website called Actors Access and saw the Terrifier 2 audition. We were already huge fans of the first film. And we were like, wait, they're doing a second one? No way. And they submitted me for it. And I actually submitted for just one of like Jonathan, who's my character, one of his friends, like
Yep.
one of his pals. And also for Jonathan as well. And turns out they liked me for Jonathan. I did like 4 auditions. I did a scream test. I was really nervous for every single one of those final auditions, and I guess it just worked out.
Yeah, that's awesome. I ask musicians this all the time. When you're in the studio creating a record that becomes an all-time classic, are you aware that you're making something special when you're making it? And was that the case when you're making this film? Could you guys feel like, oh, this is something that's going to be really good?
Honestly, I did. I felt like when we were filming those scenes in Terrifier 2, I felt that what was going on was special. But the truth is it still blew away my expectations. Like, I mean, it blew up, and then like when you were seeing like a lot of those articles, and all of a sudden it was like being spoken about in like regular talk shows, and
Yeah.
horror icons were shouting it out. And then it was the same case also for Terrifier 3 when filming. It was like, this is incredible. And then it just still blew away my expectations even after all that time.
Well,
So
that's the real big story is just how massive it's become. And the
yeah,
reason why I love it is, well, first of all, in Terrifier 2, thank you very much. Your bedroom is filled with King Diamond, Merciful Fate, and Metal
no,
Blade, and
it's
all sorts of metal stuff in there, which is awesome. Love that. Thanks to you and Damien, obviously. Uh, but yeah, but this thing has gotten so, I mean, it's massively huge, like unbelievably massively huge for just this little tiny franchise that this one guy who loved this sort of thing, is Damien, created. And I love it because all the people involved are really, really great people doing it for the love of doing it. They're doing it because they love this style of music. They love making, the style of movie. They love making stuff like this. You're great. Like everybody in the cast is awesome. Obviously, Damien's amazing. I just love these stories. It's like the little guy that I mean, it kind of relates a little bit to my story, where just some music fan that just started something and it kind of became something. And I love the story, just so amazing. And to that end, and then I'll stop fanboying. When I
no,
when I
fanboy
met
all you want.
when I went to hang out with you guys at the Texas Frightmare, which is like, I think the second biggest convention in horror convention in the U.S., something like that. It's massive, like 100,000 people, some insane people. But the lines for all you guys were just endless.
It's
Everybody's in
wild.
costume with art as art and the whole thing. And I remember being in the elevator. My girlfriend went with me because she's a huge fan too. And we were in the elevator, and these two girls, they're, I don't know, probably like 17 or 18 or something. They're all costumed up. They're like, we met David. Oh my gosh. They were going on and on about him. I said, he's a nice guy. And they're like, oh. So that was pretty fun. So now that this thing has become this massive thing, and you're like this big time movie star now, basically, how do you deal with all that sort of stuff?
You know, the truth is that I feel like for the longest time, like it's kind of hard. It was really, really hard to even just kind of process it. Like you said, going to like a horror convention, the fact that people that even want to walk up to me and just talk to me, that in itself is wild to me. And then when you walk around, like let's see if you just walk around the vendor room, you see Art the Clown masks everywhere, Art
Everywhere.
the Clown pop figures. There's even an Art the Clown video game that's out at this point. It really it there's no words that can actually really truly describe it. It's like everything changes, like your
Yep.
whole perception on things change, and then even now, so at this point, it's gotten wild. Like every once in a while, like I'll go to like a grocery store and someone will recognize me. And at the height of Terrifier 3, uh, I was one of the times I even went to the grocery store like wearing a hood and like a
Yep.
hat to try and someone still recognized me. And it's funny because I live in New Jersey, like in just like the random place in New Jersey, and a lot of people are like, what are you doing here? Like everyone thinks like I live in Hollywood, uh, but
That's the best thing about that movie. It's not Hollywood at all.
exactly. It's East Coast. It's a real true indie project. And like you were saying before, it's just simply done by like enthusiasts. Like everyone loves what they're doing, whether it's acting, whether it's directing, whether it's practical effects, you know? It's done with so much care and love for the genre that I think it's just infectious, you know.
Oh yeah.
Like Merciful Fate. You know, you can tell King Diamond he loves what he does. He
Oh yeah.
expresses himself in every way, to the makeup, to the cape. You know, uh, I
Yeah,
feel
he
like that's
takes it all
very
seriously. Yeah, you're 100%.
yeah
And he told me like I'm going to do this until I'm dead. Like I'm going to continue to make music and perform forever, which I love. Performers though always are, obviously I deal with musicians and actors are a little bit different, but David's such a unique guy. Again, metalhead, super nice guy, but so we were at the Texas Frightmare thing, right? So his thing when he's doing all these photos is he's in character. Like he
yeah
can't break character. He can't say anything. In fact, the first time I got a photo with him, one of the conventions, I saw him the day before. I said, "I'm getting a photo with you tomorrow." I said, "You're not going to talk to me, right?" He's like, "Hell no." I go, "Okay, good, stay in character." But he did that I think for the Saturday from like I don't know 10 in the morning till like 6 at night, like some like 8 or 9 hours. So he's in the costume. He can't speak. He can't do anything but play art. And I saw him the next day and I was like, why do you keep doing these? Like at this point, you're so huge, you don't really need to. He turns in, he looks at me and go, I love this. I love doing this. I'm like, oh, all right, man. That's awesome.
yeah. You're very, very right. Especially also with the actors. Like, if you want to be an actor, it's your favorite thing is to act, right?
Yep.
I actually got to meet Bryan Cranston at like a
Nice.
ShopRite thing. They were doing like a signing for like their alcohol. Him and
Yep.
Aaron Paul, and I asked him for acting advice, and he said, "Enjoy the journey. Like, enjoy the journey of it." And what that means, what I got from that is that you have to be obsessed with every little bit of it. You know, from the audition process to watching it, like watching the movie when it's done, you have to enjoy all of it. And David does a really great job at that. uh I mean, he'll be in that costume for hours,
Yeah.
interacting with fans, and doing the whole Art the Clown thing. And I mean, after a while, I'm sure that can be exhausting, but I mean, David doesn't seem to get exhausted. He loves it. That's very important.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he honestly does, and it's interesting because he's. I guess this is why it works so well with art. It's the same thing with a lot of musicians. A lot of them off stage are pretty mellow, and they go on stage and they're complete maniacs. And same thing with David. He's a pretty reserved, nice, mellow, really sweet guy, and then all of a sudden he plays this insane character. It's just yeah. It's just the whole thing is great, and again, all metalheads. I just love that. So onto your music now too. You're doing a lot of music stuff, which the music to me is interesting because it's not. It's I guess it's more
Yeah.
alternative. It's not really heavy or rock. Like where did that kind of thing take you, and why that style of music?
Well, for me, honestly, it's like the easiest type of music to make from your bedroom, right? And like I said, I love all kinds of music just as much as I love King Diamond and Merciful Fate. I love artists like Elliot Smith, Mazzy Star, Nick Drake, Duster's another big one for me. A lot of the '90s alternative as well. Um, I just wanted to do some sort of music that I felt that I can do without a band. Like, if I for the longest time I was actually got into guitar and practicing guitar to be in a metal band. I even have like the EMG pickups with the LTD. Like, I have a guitar that's literally just dedicated to metal music, and I still kind of write metal riffs to this day. I think it's just that um that type of style of music is just the easiest for me to express myself. To be able to sit down in my room at 3 a.m. and make a quiet song, because inspiration can strike whenever. With metal bands, if I wanted to do metal, I would want to do it right. I would want to have a great drummer, a really great lead guitarist, excellent bass lines, and I just never had the resources. Like, I just simply don't have the resources. Like, I live in the
And
uh
you got a lot going on too.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I can't be like it's gotten to the point where I can't. It's like hard for me to schedule something out like a month in advance because I don't know what I'll be doing. I don't know where I'll be. I don't know if I'll have like a convention randomly set up. If next thing you know, I can be in Texas. Like I've got a Texas convention next weekend. Uh, so
I
it's
know.
hard to like.
I was hoping to go to that, but I gotta be in Vegas
Yeah,
next weekend because it's the story of my life. There's a million things going on, but yeah, next weekend is the Alice Cooper, Chris Angel shows. Jim Brewer is here on Saturday, so I got to go do that.
nice.
And so yeah, it's a busy
So yeah, you,
weekend.
you understand that. You
Oh yeah,
understand like
yeah.
the busy schedule.
I
So imagine like
totally
you
get
were
it.
trying to do band practice in the middle of all
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah, fair enough. And you got to, if you, like you said, if you're going to do it right, you really have to take the time to do it. And that's a full time commitment. You've got, so many other careers going on. So speaking of all that, I'm Terrifier 4 is it finished, or can you say, or I know it's in the works that's been announced.
Truly, I have no clue. Honestly, as far as I know, I'm pretty sure Damien is still working on the script. He's quite the perfectionist himself, so
Oh,
he'll
I
keep
know.
working. Yeah,
Oh, I
he'll
know.
keep working on it. But honestly, as far as me being in it, I have no clue. I mean,
Oh, okay.
of course, that
Still,
very ending, that crazy ending with my head.
yeah, yeah.
Spoiler, yeah.
Yeah, well, Art gets killed a lot, and he seems to be all right. So yeah, we'll see. I mean,
Yeah.
he's a
Oh,
busy guy. Well,
I
hopefully,
love Mark.
yeah. I mean, I think you've got to bring the band back, right? I mean, at least one more time,
Please, please. Hey, if they call me up, it's an instant yes.
right?
Absolute yes. Yeah.
So I can't remember. Have you met King Diamond before? Or no.
I actually did have the
Okay, good.
opportunity just recently to meet him. It was I think it was yeah, it was recently in the last tour in New York.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I couldn't remember if you did or not. So yeah, that's cool. He's such a nice guy too. It is
Yeah.
weird though because I talked to him, so much without any makeup on, and then when you talk to him when he's got the makeup on, it's like it's a weird thing. Like same the first time, like I worked with Alice Cooper and we did a bunch of stuff with Alice in the early days, and I interviewed him a few times and met him a bunch of times, all with no makeup. And the first time I was at a show. And he's talking to him in makeup. It's just kind of like, whoa, this is Alice Cooper, and he's in the character now. And it's always kind of trippy, especially with King. It's like, whoa, okay, he's the same guy, but he's got this crazy makeup on it, and he becomes that character.
I love that. I love that. And I noticed that when I was talking to him because I met him when he was in the full makeup,
Yep.
uh, and you really truly I think it's kind of awesome the fact that you could if you just simply put on some makeup, you put on your full on outfit, you become something different. Even
Mm-hmm.
naturally when you're not on stage singing or acting or doing whatever you do, that persona kind of like it really does take over, and I mean that's exactly what you would hope for if you met King Diamond in the makeup. If he's
Yeah.
talking like this a little bit, when I was younger, I got into this band. Like that's how he was talking to me, and I was nerding out the entire time because it sounds like his records when he does the
Yeah.
low voice. It's
It's intimidating, man. I mean, even I get intimidated when I talk to him in the makeup.
And then his eyes too. He's got like those piercing like gray eyes as well. Like like I've always seen him live. And I mean, of course, you could see his eyes a little bit, but it's not the same as like being there right next to him having a conversation. Like you could see the king in his eyes.
Yep. There is definitely an aura there. There's that is for sure. So
Yeah,
what's next for you? What you got on the docket coming up? If you can talk about
honestly,
any of it.
well, for me, it's just about I'm trying to take everything day by day. I got a lot of conventions lined up for this year already. Doing a lot more acting. I'm working on my well, I actually just recently released my very first short that I was kind of involved in with like the behind the scenes a little bit. I was the producer, called Wolf and Crown, and my girlfriend Josie acted in it with me, and that was a lot of fun to kind of do that. Honestly, it's just to just keep doing what I'm doing, release more music. I'm right now, actually, literally just yesterday, last night, I was working on more stuff. So just my goal is just to continue creating, whether it's acting, whether I also want to get back into the interviews. Uh, been starting that back up again, because I've been finding the time in between, because why not, right? Why not?
Yeah, hell yeah.
So just kind of just doing everything, trying to keep up with it with the Instagram, with the fun vinyl posts. Uh, so there's certainly more on the way.
Good. I love that. You're the next generation, and if you're any indication of how the next generation is, we're in good hands. So you're doing good at all the stuff you're doing. We all appreciate that, and thank you so much for doing this.
Of course. I mean, I had a great time talking, man. And once again, that really means a lot coming from you. Like,
Well, thanks,
seriously.
thanks, man. It was a lot of fun. Always a lot of fun to talk to you. So thanks
Oh,
again.
absolutely. Yeah, thank you, man. I hope you have a good one. Stay metal.
You can't leave yet because we have to
Okay.
upload this thing. So